the last Friday of May, getting ready to kick off our summer. Can you believe it? We've been in this now for several months. It's been a crazy run. So we are so grateful to have you all with us today. I see Adriana, and President of the Palm Beach County Justice Association, Jeff Edelman, President of the Fort Lauderdale chapter of ABOTA, Norman Wass, President of the Miami chapter of ABOTA. Always a pleasure to work with you all in these presentations. A special shout out to the Palm Beach County Justice Association for organizing this amazing seminar on mental health. What a topic we can all use. And I've been really looking forward to this particular presentation. So thank you. I anticipate that Judge Small will be joining us at some point today to be giving us an update on circuit civil operations. She's been really great about chiming in and keeping us updated. So hopefully we'll get an update from her if her schedule allows. But with that, without further ado, I'd like to turn the floor over to our moderator extraordinaire, John McGovern.
Good morning. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you to everyone for joining us for what seems like Groundhog's Day of seminars, but this is one that really gives us a chance to not talk about our practice or COVID-19 or PPP loans or any of the things that have stressed out so many of us over these now many weeks. So when we wanted to talk about a seminar for today, we wanted to talk about what is the other side of life. How are people dealing with stress, anxiety, health issues, being cooped up at home too much, too long, and how can we start to get life back to normal in our brains and in our practices. And so I think this is going to be a very exciting seminar, one that is very useful to all of us. And we have a rock star panel of women, which I also think is very exciting, that are going to talk to us today about various aspects of making sure that our mental lives are on the right track. To start us off today, we are very honored to have with us Judge Samantha Schosberg Feuer from the 15th Judicial Circuit. Judge Feuer is a graduate of Tufts University and the University of Florida Law School. She has served as the 15th Judicial Circuit pro bono chair for years. She was elected first in 2014 and just re-elected this year without opposition. She is a powerhouse, but the reason that she's here with us today, and I can attest to this, full disclosure, she's a close personal friend, but she is a person who works very hard every day. She's already had her run today to compartmentalize her life and make sure that she is taking care of not only being the best judge that she can be, but also being the best mom that she can be, the best wife that she can be, the things that all of us are trying to deal with, particularly at this very stressful time. She has worked in the family division. She has worked in the criminal division. We expect to see her soon in the circuit civil division. She co-founded the Women's Foundation of Palm Beach County. And she has worked in both criminal practice. She was bureau chief for the Attorney General's office, and she worked at Ackerman. So she has broad experience and knows what so many of us go through daily. So we are excited to have Judge Schosberg Feuer join us today to talk about really the judicial perspective, but also what her insights can be to all of us for better mental health and fitness and balancing our lives. So good morning, Judge Schosberg Feuer, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you for having me.
We're going to let you begin. I think there's a PowerPoint coming, I believe.
Camilla, if you want to start that going, or if you'd like me to, I will.
Hold on a second. Okay. Thank you so much for having me, everybody. I wasn't sure, Jen, if we were going to do the poll now or how it was going to work. But it's so good to see everybody by Zoom. I really appreciate everyone being here. I'm trying to work into the vernacular, the word Zoominar. It's like a Zoom webinar. I did a similar webinar like this, a similar Zoominar last week for the Florida Association for Women Lawyers. And so if some of you were there, and this is a little bit duplicative, I apologize, but it's definitely, I added some, changed some other information. I want to thank Jen and John and Andrew and Adriana for inviting me here to speak. And this is such an important topic, as John said. I mean, you know, right now more than ever, mental health and wellness is integral in our personal lives and our professional lives. And the only way that we are going to be able to do our jobs effectively, the only way we're going to be able to represent clients effectively, the only way I'm going to be able to be an effective judge and patient and calm and be a good listener on the bench is if my mental health and wellness is good and stable. And, you know, obviously right now we have to adapt to the times in terms of, you know, not being able to go to our normal gyms or not being able to have our normal routines or just being home more and eating more and dealing with homeschooling and whatnot. And so it's just a very, very trying time for everybody. And so having sat on the Mental Health and Wellness Committee for the Florida Bar for the past 2 years, and I was just reappointed, has been such an amazing committee in that it is committed to helping lawyers stay mentally and physically healthy in the profession because it has been such a growing problem. And number one, overarchingly, the number one way that we can deal with this is by raising awareness about it and helping each other have good mental health and wellness. So we're going to start the PowerPoint. I want to thank my intern, Camilla, who's been working remotely and who's helped me very much with this PowerPoint. And what I'd like to do now is I'd like everyone to take a look at this screen. How stressed are you? In the last month, how often has the following been true to you? And so I'd like you to just take a piece of paper, take about 5 minutes. We're not going to ask you for your answers, so don't worry. It's going to be anonymous. It's just kind of a personal check on how your mental health is. So if you can see at the top, you can rate 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And, you know, I know that having gone to law school, they said there wouldn't be any math, but here there's going to be a little bit of math, which you trial lawyers are good at. So, so if you could just take this test quickly or quiz. This is the only quiz you're going to have today. So take a look at the screen.
You want to, Judge Feuer, you wanted to give a quiz in honor of the last day of school?
Yes, right, exactly. So my kids come running to me this morning, they're like, we don't have this last day of school. We usually do all these fun things. What do you have for us? I'm like, I'm going to be out of pocket from like, so please busy yourselves. Thank you. But yeah, last day of school, which, you know, is something that's both daunting and not. I mean, excited for school to be over, but then without the structure with us working, which is something we're going to talk about, is going to be difficult. And I say often, you know, thankfully my children are not 6 and 4, and I have a 13-year-old who can help watch the 10-year-old. But
Judge, I'm going to interrupt for 1 second. While people are working on the quiz, we also have Judge Lisa Small, who has joined us, and she has regularly joined these Friday discussions to give us an update of what's happening in the circuit civil divisions, and particularly in the circuit civil division of the 15th Judicial Circuit. Judge Small is the administrative judge for the circuit civil division of the 15th Judicial Circuit. She is also the current Palm Beach County Justice Association Jurist of the Year. So I want to thank her for joining, and I want to give her a couple of moments while everyone is taking this quiz to give us an update on what is the latest with the civil courts here in Palm Beach and in the larger South Florida area. Judge Small, are you there?
Can you see me or hear me?
We hear you.
Okay, you hear me. Okay, good.
And we see you. And we see you.
You see me. Okay, great. I don't see me, but I don't need to see me. First, hi, Judge Schosberg, Feuer.
Hi, how How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And I'm going to take this as soon as I complete this announcement for everyone. So we're June 1, next Monday. Can you believe it? We will continue in the remote realm with remote hearings, UMC, special sets, evidentiary hearings, non-jury trials. That's how we're going to be proceeding in the 15th for June. Jury trials remain suspended until July 6th. We are ramping up for a start with jury trials July 6th. And it's very exciting. You'll see on the 15th Judicial Circuit website an outstanding video by our Chief Judge, Krista Marks, concerning what we're going to be doing in terms of safety measures, social distancing, and really promoting juror service. So please take a moment to look at the video. We're excited about bringing jurors to the courthouse. We intend on beginning in Circuit Civil the in-person hearings in July, but we're going to continue to use this remote platform as even in July. The technology is so feasible and smooth that we are going to it's going to be part of our regular operating procedures. It's just that we're going to be able to incorporate in-person hearings in July. Next, but that's, I mean, this is an evolving situation. So what I say today, depending on what comes out from Tallahassee, from the Supreme Court, it can change. We're also, we've also submitted a proposed plan to participate in the Supreme Court's work study program's remote civil jury pilot program. So we hopefully will get approved to proceed as a circuit that's part of the pilot program. We just submitted that this week, and we may be able to conduct remote civil jury trials on the video conference platform like Zoom. So those are the exciting announcements. Continue to set those hearings. We are scheduling aggressively. The judges at the 15th are working so hard in getting hearings in terms of your UMCs, your special sets, your evidentiary hearings. Right now, it still poses a unique opportunity for June in terms of the ability to obtain hearing time and obtain it quickly. That concludes my announcement. Thank you.
Judge Small, thank you again so much for joining us and for that update. Exciting news that we may be headed to Zoom trials, and we know where we'll be in June. We'll be very much where we were here in May. So July is coming and June will be the same. Thank you so much for joining us these many weeks and for your efforts on our behalf.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Lisa. See you soon.
Sam.
Take care. All right. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to do the quiz. If you didn't, we can send out the pictures of the picture of the quiz later if you want, but we're going to move to the next slide that shows how stressed you actually are. So tally up your scores, and then you can see how stressed you actually are. I don't want anyone to get worried, because I'm going to tell you in a couple of minutes how to decrease your stress level. And I'm sure everybody's stress level is through the roof right now, given the circumstances. So don't panic, okay? We're gonna leave the scores up just for another minute. And then we're going to, and we can post these later. We're gonna go to the next slide. Did everybody tally? Hope so. Okay. All right, if not, we can show the screen later. Okay, so now moving to the next slide, everybody. We're gonna talk about some national statistics on lawyer well-being, okay? And I would submit that these are probably lower than what they actually are, okay? 36% of lawyers have have an alcohol problem. And then 21 to 23 qualify as problem drinkers. And then you can see under there, most problematic for men under the age of 30, and for people who are in private practice, especially solo practitioners, which many of you are. 28% of lawyers suffer from depression, highest for men and sole practitioners. Stress, 23%, which I do not think is accurate. These are statistics from a couple of years ago, so I would submit that it's probably much more now. Anxiety, 19%, highest for women and solo practitioners. And then for suicide, the legal profession is ranked number 8 in a study of suicide by occupation, which is 1.33 times the national average. So those are some national statistics. We're going to move on to some Florida statistics. Just to the left of the screen, you can see it's lawyers and law students, and obviously it starts in law school. And I talk to some law students occasionally about being circumspect of these issues as they transition from law school and graduation into private practice or being a lawyer. Binge drinking is an issue, depression, anxiety, which are obviously higher for lawyers than law students, you can see there. In Florida, 33% of Florida lawyers reported high stress, which I think also is probably a lot higher than that. 32% reported that balancing work and family was a significant challenge. And 7 out of 10, this is the most startling statistic, 7 out of 10 lawyers in Florida said they would change careers if they could. That's very daunting. And it's something that we in the profession need to work on, and we need to change, and we need to help each other in order to get that statistic way lower, for sure. So moving on to the next slide. These are some main challenges, and these are things that we're all aware of. Work-life balance. You know, I think that balance, and I say this often when I speak, balance is kind of a fiction. And I appreciate what John said in the beginning about trying to be the best mom and trying to be the best judge and trying to be the best wife and the best daughter, but you can't be the best all at one time. It's just impossible. If you're being a good judge and you're being a good mom, you're doing great, okay? So it's very hard to have everything in perfect balance, and you might get it occasionally, but it's really something that is difficult to strive for. And look, we're all high achievers. I would ask that you not try to have everything in balance at all times. Now, some main challenges. You know, it's an adversarial process. We deal with strict deadlines. Your clients want access to you 24/7, 52 weeks out of the year. Extremely competitive, extremely cutthroat. There's politics at law firms. There are changes in leadership sometimes that affect your profession. We're normally, many of us are super type A personalities. We strive to be perfect. We strive to have everything exactly as we want it. Our personal lives and families, especially now while we're trying to homeschool and we're trying to keep our kids mentally and physically healthy, that's a challenge. Our health is a challenge, as we saw from some of those statistics earlier. Finances are an issue, especially now. And then Florida bar issues can be a challenge. So these are some of the main challenges that we all know in our profession, and we have to be circumspect of them, as we move forward. Now, coping with coronavirus on a personal level, and mental health and wellness tips. So I'm going to try to give you some tips. And again, these are things that you're probably aware of, but it's things that we all need to be reminded of. Here are some stressors specific to attorneys during the crisis. Overarching stress related to family and personal health, and trying to maintain our work product and our client relationships while we work through this pandemic. It's very difficult to be on a client call while you have your 3-year-old or your 10-year-old trying to ask you to help them with their math problems. Concerns regarding feasibility of working from home and homeschooling and childcare. You know, the day camps are closed, sleepaway camps are closed. Obviously school has been from home. These are very difficult, especially for single parents who are, trying to maintain their jobs and keep themselves financially healthy while at the same time, dealing with their kids. Concerns over meeting client and work deadlines. Those are difficult. Now, even though there are times where right now we might have more time on our hands, the time constraints are a little bit different because we're getting pulled in other directions that we normally aren't. frustrations with lack of in-person meetings, lack of in-person court hearings. And just like Judge Small said, I've been having Zoom hearings since day one, and we often have, you know, attorneys who don't want to do Zoom hearings and want to delay the case until after Zoom hearings. Now, as we all know, because of the administrative order in the Supreme Court, that's been extended for another month. We're not really sure when we're going to be doing in-person hearings again. So people need to adapt to Zoom. And unfortunately, there are some non-tech savvy lawyers, or maybe some lawyers who haven't been using technology, and Zoom is difficult. So there's definitely that stress. Lack of interaction with supervisors and colleagues. You know, that's why FaceTime and Zoom and these type of Zoominars are important, to see each other and be able to talk to each other. It was really nice to see people kind of talking at the beginning, checking in. So important. Financial concerns regarding lack of billing or budget cuts at the firm that you're at. Loss of employment. You know, obviously that's that is a fear of people right now with the unemployment rate rising. And then disenchantment with the legal profession. You saw that statistic about 7 out of 10 lawyers would change careers. I'm concerned that that number might go up after this pandemic. It's funny, side note, I went to the dentist the other day, obviously very safe. My dentist is in like a hazmat suit and masks and everything else. And she was telling me, you know, she started thinking about, you know, maybe changing professions just because of the high stress. You know, the dental profession also has a high suicide rate. And she was, you know, kind of reevaluating, you know, it's a family business. Her dad is a dentist, she's a dentist, and it's something that's personal to her, but she was kind of reevaluating her career, which I think people are unfortunately going to be doing in light of the pandemic. So now we're going to talk about how to deal with these stressors. Stay positive. Take care of yourself. And like I said, we're all going to get through this together. And these are things, again, like I said, that we all know. Stick to a daily routine. You know, when my kids were homeschooling, for my mental health and for my husband, who we both work and both have, you know, constantly on calls and Zooms, they had to get up and they had to get dressed for school every morning. I gave them breakfast, and then they had to actually, you know, get ready for school. Even if they didn't have an online class, I needed a routine. And I think that helped them, because obviously, as you know, kids thrive on predictability, but so do adults. We like the routine. Get dressed, get ready for Zoom. You wouldn't believe some of the Zooms that I've had. Just as a funny side note, I have attorneys on Zoom who get on to the Zoom call and they have, a button down shirt with, chest hair and not dressed appropriately. A friend of mine who's a judge in Broward had an attorney working from home with his bird on his shoulder. I mean, there are things that, obviously it's a little more relaxed, but, if you get dressed and you, for your Zooms, you're going to feel better. You're going to perform better in your hearings and in your meetings. So exercise at least once a day. John and Jen know this about me, but we live on a canal that leads to a lake. And my son said, listen, we should get kayaks. We can't leave the house, but we can go right off the back dock. And so we've been kayaking every day, which is great exercise. Whatever it is that you do, do a Peloton. People have loved these Pelotons. I don't have one, but, treadmill, walk around your block, meet your neighbors. I have some friendly neighbor who I never knew before who now brings me mangoes, every 2 days. So, reach out to others, family members, colleagues, at least once a day for 30 minutes. Try to make sure you have that face-to-face interaction, especially also, and this is not dealing with the legal profession, but especially the elderly who are isolated right now. They need to have that face-to-face interaction. And some of you might have elderly clients that it would be beneficial for them to see your face and see, how you're doing and make that contact. Stay hydrated, eat well, spend time playing with children or pets. I feel like our pets are wondering why we're home all the time because, that this is kind of their realm while we're at work. Give people a little more leeway. I saw someone at Home Depot yesterday yelling at the cashier for no reason whatsoever. And I felt so bad because obviously that person's stress level is high. It's high stress, low tolerance. And you need to give people a little more leeway. I felt the need to apologize to the cashier for the man who was yelling at her in front of me. So, obviously everyone's just trying to do their best. And so just remember, give everybody a little more leeway. Now moving to the next slide, these are things we all know also. Expect behavioral issues in children and try to guide yourself accordingly. They also are internally panicking and we need to realize that. And you might have clients that are also panicking and might be behaving, abnormally. So you need to remember that. Limit social media, especially, relating to COVID, relating to the virus. Limit media, relating to the virus, because, I had to tell my dad, who's 79 years old, who's so active and plays tennis 5 times a day. Now he's home. I said, Dad, listen, don't, watch more than an hour of TV a day. You're going to drive yourself nuts. So you got to think about that. Notice the good in the world. Thank people for their efforts. Try to thank people who are the helpers. Do something that makes you feel good. If I'm able to get home early, my daughter likes to cook. I cook with her. It doesn't always come out the way that the recipe suggests, but it's a fun thing that you can do, and it's something that you can do to de-stress. Help your neighbors and colleagues. And like I said, check in with your colleagues as much as you possibly can. The next slide talks about some more coping mechanisms. Find a long-term project or a new skill. My daughter wants to learn sign language. I said, now's the perfect time. Find an online class. I'll pay for an online class, learn sign language. Find humor every day. For those of you who know my husband, he's definitely the funny one in the family. So we're either laughing with him, not at him, with him daily, but try to find some humor. And definitely remind yourself that this is temporary and reach out for help when you need it, because, a lot of times by the time people need help, it's too late. And, I think that those are important things in how to deal with the stressors. And of course, everybody has their own method of dealing with stress. And so there's a lot more things that you can do. So here's the Florida Bar Mental Health and Wellness, just a bit of an overview. The committee was started in 2017 by Florida Bar President Michael Heiger. Yes, you like that little brain working out there. 6 members, they started holding town halls around the state. And then it was presented at the annual convention in 2018. And in 2018 became a Florida Bar Standing Committee. Camilla, you could switch please to the next slide. And then it expanded to 29 members with 2 co-chairs and 3 subcommittees. And we hold 3 in-person meetings per year that coincide with the Florida Bar meetings. And I'm really, I love this committee, because this committee has done so much to advance the ball in helping the profession in mental health and wellness. We've started creating PowerPoints that can be done all around the state. And we have a speakers bureau where people can go and speak about these topics. We're providing more mental health and wellness CLEs. We, just changing kind of the face of how we deal with mental health and wellness, written articles. There's been some discussion about partnering with certain gyms so you can get discounts through your Florida Bar membership. And on the next slide, we talk about the goal. The goal of the committee is to make every Florida Bar member aware that they have access to high quality, confidential mental health and wellness resources. And you can find them. There's the Florida Bar Mental Health and Wellness link to the bottom of the screen. And somebody can put that in the chat and we can share that later. And that's where you can find everything regarding to the Mental Health and Wellness Committee. I'm going to talk now a little bit on the next slide about committee purposes. As I've already talked about, destigmatizing mental health in the legal community for lawyers and judges, to educate employers, judges, and lawyers of how to identify and address mental health issues in lawyers, to educate lawyers about the benefits of balancing personal life and professional life, to provide programming like we talked about, CLEs, to educate voluntary bar associations on mental health and wellness programs, to interface with Florida lawyers' assistance to broaden the reach to members not limited to people facing grievance issues, and to create a special committee to study and improve the Florida Bar rules and programming to ensure that these issues are addressed and that lawyers get access to mental health and wellness services. And so one of our major accomplishments is the mental health helpline. And as of May 1st, eligible bar members can call confidentially at no cost the mental health and wellness hotline. And if we can put that also in the chat, that would be great. And speak with a professional who can provide crisis intervention and a referral. You get up to 3 visits with a licensed mental health professional, 3 in-person therapy sessions, which are right now obviously done by Zoom, at no cost to eligible bar members. And this is something that was a big push from the committee. And it's provided through an agreement with Core Care Associates, and they have a network of 11,000 providers nationwide. And they have professionals that deal with all kinds of issues. It's not just the traditional suicide hotline. It's helping with childcare issues. It's helping with issues dealing with aging parents. It's helping lawyers get out of debt, helping lawyers plan for retirement. All of these things are helping our mental health and wellness and keeping our mental health and wellness stable. So I would urge you to use the hotline and let other members of your firm know that this hotline's available and it is a free service. And so I hope people do take advantage of that. What else? The accomplishments continued. The website is redesigning the mental health and wellness website. The committee's revamping it. I'm sorry, I meant to say the committee is. And there are articles being crafted that are going to be published. And like I said before, the Speakers Bureau has completed 4 PowerPoint presentations that can be replicated across the state on compassion fatigue, stress management, yoga and meditation, lawyers needing wellness, and they're available on the webpage with the list of qualified speakers. So, how the pandemic will impact the legal profession. And, you know, look, obviously we don't know exactly how it's going to affect the profession long term. But number one, the flexibility. It's taught us that we can do quality work that can still be accomplished while allowing flexible hours for employees, especially in terms of childcare or people who are caring for elderly parents or sick family members. The demand. Some data shows that there is a high demand for lawyers right now that are helping navigate in these uncharted waters for companies who are dealing with the virus, with employment issues and related issues, companies that are having related issues regarding long-term economic impact. Video conferencing. This Zoominar is great. I love the fact that I can see everybody. I can see everybody's faces. I can, you know, interact with you by use of technology. It's weird to like pick up the phone and have a phone conversation without it being like a FaceTime or a Zoom conversation now. The reliability of video conferencing has surpassed all these expectations, and it will likely reduce the time to be away from office and home. I mean, there's been some discussions, as you know, about long-term, you know, uniform motion calendar being by Zoom and not actually, you know, so I don't know if that's going to happen or not. We're just very fortunate that we have this ability so that we can keep the wheels of justice going and so that we can keep the cases moving. Tips to prepare for the future while you have the time now. Take time now to establish new goals, rebrand, and figure out what some of your long-term career planning is. Diversify your practice. You know, obviously, as John said, I'm the chair of the pro bono committee, so this is something that's near and dear to me. Take on a pro bono case in another practice area that can help diversify your practice. Write a journal article, write an article on something that you've either been working on or you just recently briefed or you did a motion on. These are all things that we can do to kind of enrich our practice. Reach out to partners and supervisors now to help and assist yourself, especially for young lawyers. Make yourself invaluable, make yourself adaptable. Expand your network of attorneys and contacts, you know, right now while you have the time. You know, it's kind of, my mom always used to say, you know, use your time wisely. You have this time where you can actually do some things that you normally wouldn't have time to do. So here are some conclusions and some takeaways from the PowerPoint. And we all know this and need to be more aware of it, but attorneys in the legal profession suffer with high rates of stress, for sure, especially now. And you must make it a priority to care for yourself during this critical time. and care for your personal and professional health. You need to utilize the resources available, such as those available through the Florida Bar. And you need to focus on the positives, you know, make a positive list where you can focus on the positives regarding flexible work hours, remote hearings, and depositions and telecommuting. So I would encourage you to try, oh, there's another one, sorry. Plan for the future, no matter how uncertain it is. Diversify your practice and learn new skills. So if we have a moment, Jen, maybe now before our last slide, we can do the poll for everybody. And this is an anonymous poll. And if you can just take this now, I think it'll show that we're all in this together. So you need to answer all the questions on the poll. And then after, you can submit the poll, and then we'll see how everybody's kind of on the same page here in terms of stress level. Jen, I don't think it's letting me answer the questions right now.
There we go. I think that will let us answer them now.
Is it working for,
Is it working now?
So it won't let the hosts do votes.
Okay.
So
So
everyone else can vote.
everyone else is getting to vote right now on the screen, and we're seeing the results in real time.
Okay, good. All right, good. Yes, I can see it on mine now. And as a side note, you should not be stressed doing this poll.
Looking at the answers, it does appear there's a sizable amount of stress, though.
Absolutely. We'll give people a couple more moments to vote.
And in this, while we have a moment, I'd like to give a shout out to Adriana Gonzalez, who had a birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Adriana.
Thank you so much. My last one in my 30s, spent in quarantine.
Quarantine birthday, it's one you'll never forget.
Right.
That's what I told my daughter when she had her 13th birthday in quarantine. I think people are still voting, polling. Just give people a couple more seconds to poll. Okay. So I don't want to take up too much more time. As you can see, are we done? Did you close it, Jen?
I'm
Yeah,
trying to share it.
It's closed now. We're trying to share it.
Okay.
It says that it's sharing.
It's sharing for me. Is it sharing for everybody? You can poll results. Okay. So just going through quickly, are you stressed balancing work with childcare? It's not as high as I would have expected, which I guess is a good thing. But 58% said yes, 42% said no. Are you worried about the coronavirus and getting yourself or others sick? Obviously, that's going to be very high, 80%. Do you feel you're getting enough sleep? No. Are we ever getting enough sleep as lawyers? Probably not. Are you feeling lonely or isolated during this period of physical distancing? That's great. The fact that it says it's no there is really, really great and good to hear. And it means that we're doing the right things by trying to make sure that we're seeing each other face to face more often. Are you stressed with work since the March shutdown? Yes, 71%. You know, obviously financially stressed out, not being able to take on new clients, to maintain clients, to maintain your workload. Do you feel it's been better for your mental health working remotely? Most people say no. And that's probably, you know, accurate in light of the fact that it's just a difficult transition. That's not the way we've traditionally practiced. Have you been exercising? You all need to get a kayak. But have you been exercising? 23% say yes, 24% say no, 33% say yes, 35% say no, and 32 say about the same, which are not terrible. Have you been eating more since the shutdown? I think everybody has. Like I saw someone say in the chat, you know, don't gain the quarantine 15. Make sure that you exercise and you keep yourself healthy, and you know, obviously feeling good physically will help you mentally as well. So Camilla, if you don't mind just sharing the last slide, which is kind of a feel-good slide. Again, I want to thank the Justice Association for having me here. I hope to see you all on many other webinars in the future. And I want to thank Jen for asking me to do this. Keep calm. We'll all get through this together. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Judge Feuer.
Thank you so much, Judge Feuer, for joining us and for sharing your insights. I think it's really important that both lawyers and judges know that we're really all in this together, and that we are a team. For the court to be effective, the lawyers have to be effective, and for the lawyers to be effective, the court has to be effective. So I think that it is really important, everything that you have said today, and I thank you for your service on the Mental Health Committee, because I think that that is something that we all need to be a little bit more focused on. And
Thank
folks,
you. And
now,
just one more thing. Sorry, John. If anybody has any further questions, you can certainly email me. Happy to put my email in the chat. Just don't use it inappropriately. I know you won't. But happy to answer any questions about mental health or the committee, or anything about the University of Florida, right, Andrew Harris?
we've been telling everyone that they can send questions to the chat, and if you're going to be on for the rest of the, as you call it, the Zoominar, we'll let people send you questions if they want to.
Sure.
And now that we've had a chance to talk about what the problem is, and I think we've seen from Judge Feur's presentation and from the polling itself, just of our own, of the people that are on this this webinar, this is an issue that, these issues are ones that are affecting us all, and they're affecting more people than we might think. So we have two more speakers to talk about actual solutions, what to do next from their particular fields of expertise. And our first speaker is Sydnee Newman, someone that many of you know well. She is the immediate past executive director of the Palm Beach County Justice Association. We thank her for her efforts over 3+ years. She has now moved on to what is her personal passion. She is a movement specialist. She is working full-time at Kaizen Fitness. She is certified in kettlebell instruction, and she is a registered yoga teacher who has had her Taekwondo black belt since she was 8 years old. So we are excited to have another University of Florida graduate here with us. Thank you for coming back and being with us today, Sydnee Newman. Welcome, and tell us what we need to be doing that we can be doing every day in a very simple physical fitness sort of way.
Definitely. Thanks, John. Thank you everyone for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to see a lot of familiar names and faces again. It's nice to continue to stay involved in whatever capacity I can. So first and foremost, kind of jumping on to what Judge Schosberg Feuer mentioned, be nice to people, be nice to yourselves. For me, I call it shoulding. We're shoulding ourselves, which if you say it fast, it sounds bad, but there's a point to that. Don't should yourself to death. We are all taking this quarantine pandemic situation very differently. Some people are still panicking. Some people think it's fake. So just be nice to yourselves, be easy on yourselves and others around you, and just acknowledge that it's okay that we're all expressing it differently. And also, you need to take care of yourself before you can really truly take care of others. So today I've got a couple tips to help you do that. First and foremost, I want to talk about some breathing techniques. The word meditation scares a lot of people, especially attorneys, but any basic simple breathing techniques, visualization, is a form of meditation. So don't let it scare you. But the idea of meditation and breathing and visualization can help you calm yourself. So Jen, if you will put up the slide of the vagus nerve, V-A-G-U-S. So if everybody can see this, it's a really good example. So the vagus nerve runs from basically the whole way down your spine. You can see that it connects to all of your organs. When you breathe deeply, especially in yogic breathing that some of you might be familiar with, it activates the vagus nerve and automatically calms all of your organs at the same time. And you can see here specific effects of the calming of the vagus nerve, how it affects your gut, how it affects your liver, your heart, your brain, all the things. So this slide will be available for after if you want to take it and reference it. I'm not going to get into the details, but it's a quick, good visual of why it's important to breathe. So first and foremost, yogic breathing is diaphragmatic breathing. So you want to think about breathing into the back of your throat or right into your belly. So I'm going to show you, this is going to be a little bit interactive. Please feel free to turn off your camera and play and join me. Nothing's too intense. You should be able to do everything at your seat. But when a lot of us think of breathing deeply, we think, and our shoulders go up and our chest puffs. You're still only in your nose. Technically, your shoulders shouldn't be scrunching up. If you breathe deeply, your belly should be expanding. So you can play with this at your seat, but you can also lay down when you get home or first thing in the morning. Lay flat on your back, put one hand on your stomach. Actually, you can even start both hands on your stomach. Think about breathing through your nose into the back of your throat and sending your breath right through your belly. As the belly expands, your hands rise. Nothing else should expand. If you really focus on this, that focus will help you calm. It's activating the vagus nerve, but it's also helping you get more oxygen so you can continue on with your day in a more calm way and properly oxygenated. If you're laying on your back, then you can put your hands right on your ribs. Now breathe right into the ribs. In through the nose, out through the nose, and you can see yourself expanding. Then hand on the chest, same thing. It's okay to get a good chest breath, but you want to breathe deep into the back of your throat. If it's audible, that means you're doing it right. It's going to feel weird if you've never done this before, but if you hear yourself breathing, that means you're doing it right and you are activating the right things. Then you can move one hand belly, one hand chest, breathe into the belly, and that fills, then into your ribs, then into the top of the chest. And exhale everything at the same time. Play with a couple of these. Breathe through the nose into your belly, ribs, chest. It's hard to talk and do. Play with a couple of these. Just that breathing first thing in the morning or pause at noon in your day will help you. We can get more in depth with that one-on-one if you would like. I'm just kind of going to quick snippet with you. Also forgot to mention, everything I'm doing is pretty interactive. So if you have a question while I'm demonstrating something or explaining something, please feel free to unmute yourself and jump in and ask me, because whatever question you have probably applies to other people too. So the next thing, assuming you've got your breathing, your diaphragmatic breathing, you can hear yourself, counting your breath really helps to relieve stress and calm you in a panic moment or a stressful moment. You can close your eyes or not, but same count breathing in, same count breathing out. So if you breathe through the nose for 4, inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhale through the nose, 4, 3, 2, 1, hold. Inhale through the nose, 5, 4, 3, 2, hold. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, hold. Inhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, hold. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Let it all out. So moving through that, counting your breath, it doesn't have to be 4, 5, 6. It can be 3, 2, 1, whatever you need in your moment. It helps you fall asleep. It helps you calm in a stressful moment. Just think about counting your breath. You can do 4 counts inhale, 6 counts exhale. Play with what works for you, but by focusing on counting your breathing and focusing on your breath, that allows you to be present in the moment and let the anxiety and the stress go. So play with that. Maybe report back. Let me know how that helps you. The last thing, which you may not have been exposed to, is alternate nose breathing. Something that I learned through yoga training that I didn't realize prior is that we alternate how we breathe through our nostrils naturally. So we can reset this, and it's also a de-stressor. This is something you can do first thing in the morning to help your energy throughout the day. It's probably not something you want to do in your office if you have a lot of windows, because you might look weird. But I'm going to show you. If you sit in a comfortable position, you can fold your legs or be on your chair. Left hand is on your leg. Right hand comes up to your nose. Thumb on your right nostril, pinky on your left nostril. So you're going to close your right nostril, inhale through the left, close it, exhale through the right. Then inhale through the right, close it, exhale through the left. That is 1 round. And you're switching your nostril breathing, resetting everything. So I would say work through that for a solid minute. You can put a minute on your phone and just close your eyes and focus on that. That'll reset you and give you some energy for the day. Super simple breathing techniques. Another way to just get present and focus on something other than your screaming kids or your stressful clients. One last tip for sleep. If you are trying to fall asleep and you've tried all these breathing techniques and you cannot shut your brain off, utilize that. Lay flat on your back, arms out. You want your palms up. Think toes to the top of your head. So focus on, let's say, your right big toe. Think about it, focus on it until you can no longer feel it. Then move to your next toe, or from your toes up to your heel, then your ankle, then your knee. Move from one leg to the other, then up, and then all the way down until it allows you to calm. So you really think and focus on a certain area, think about feeling it, and eventually you won't be able to feel it anymore because you're phasing into this calmer state. And then move up, and you can pick different body parts, work the way up and work your way back down. It'll really help you calm and fall asleep. Any questions so far? Feel free to pop them in the chat or jump in and unmute yourself. All right, let's move on to maintaining energy. So at the end of this, I have a 1-sheeter slide that Jen will put up that will remind everybody of all of the bullet points for breathing and such. So you don't have to remember this all on your own. Maintaining energy. So even myself, I'm a culprit when I'm working in front of the computer, especially when I was working full-time with PBCJA. It's so easy to just handle one more email before eating or drinking or going to the bathroom. Oh, one more email. Oh, let me just quick respond. Oh, let me handle this task. And before we know it, it's 5 o'clock and we haven't gone to the bathroom and we haven't eaten. And now we're stressed because we haven't eaten or drank and we've got to feed the kids and somehow go to sleep. And it's a vicious cycle. I see a quick question from Jeff. Sorry to interrupt myself. When you're breathing, meditating, sit in a comfortable position. Whatever works for you. There is no one size fits all. You can be sitting in your desk chair. Legs should be unfolded if you're sitting in your desk chair, palms up. If you're on the floor, cross your legs. Try to remain palms up. That'll help the body calm. Okay, getting back into energy. So getting up and moving. Force yourself to get up and have a snack. Maybe put an alarm on your phone for every hour or every 2 hours. Go pee, get a snack, get some water. Maybe it's get up and walk around, walk the dog, walk around the building. If you are already active working out a lot, maybe those reminders are do 10 squats, do 10 push-ups. It doesn't have to be intense. It doesn't have to be a lot. Just get that blood flowing. You know, if you're sitting too much, there is potential for blood clots. So keep that in mind as well. So put an alarm, just move. Again, don't should yourself, be nice to yourself. Maybe the first day you try it, it doesn't work, but the second day, commit to it. Just get up and move a little bit rather than staying in this chair. When you're seated in a chair all day long, you also have hip flexion all day long, which means your knees are up and your hip is partially folded. So that can affect your back, it can affect your hips, and can be really uncomfortable over time. I'll give you some exercises for that in a moment. Drink water, drink enough water. I know you all drink too much coffee, so you have to balance that with water.
Sydney, was that to me directly?
No, John, but I'm glad it resonated with you. Water, at minimum, you should be drinking half your body weight in ounces of water per day. So super simple, if you're 100 pounds, you should be drinking 50 ounces of water. To some that seems like a lot, to others it doesn't seem like that much. That should be what you're drinking at minimum. If you're dehydrated, your energy level is also not going to be tip top. So what I do is I always have a large bottle. This happens to be my PBCJA bottle, and I think it's 32 ounces. This one's 26. So I know that I have to get through at least 2.5 of these to be sufficiently hydrated every day. So what I do is I keep a big bottle with me. Most of them tend to be 40 ounces or 68 ounces. So it's not like I have to get through 12 of them a day. And I can see where that level is, and it helps me, thanks Tim, it helps me stay on track and kind of force myself, because I know in the long run that's really going to help my energy. What you eat and what you drink lasts. It carries over. It is cumulative. So if I don't drink enough water today, I might be dragging tomorrow. Even if I start the day drinking a lot of water, if I start it out dehydrated, I have to work that much harder to get back to normal. So keep that in mind. Try to always stay hydrated, and that's going to help trickle down to everything else. Speaking of water, especially if you're an intermittent faster, if you sprinkle a little bit of Himalayan sea salt in your water, not enough where it tastes salty, just a teeny bit, that actually gives you electrolytes, which will help with your energy throughout the day and maybe help you from having to drink 42 cups of coffee every day. Andrew, I'll get back to your Gatorade Powerade comment. Okay, so some quick tips for energy and what to eat throughout the day. Obviously, what you eat, the meals you eat, the times you eat are different for everybody. So I'm not going to give you a one size fits all. If you have questions about nutrition or what to eat and meal sizes for you, please feel free to reach out to me individually. But in general, you want to eat throughout the day. Keep your metabolism going. That will keep your energy going. Some really great snack foods, berries, a handful of berries. Berries are high in antioxidants and low in sugar. So you can get a lot more of these, but actually feel an energy boost from having a handful of blueberries, blackberries, strawberries. You know, people are always scared of eating too much fruit because of all the sugar in there. But if you focus on berries, that's not a worry. You can have a ton of them and you will feel great. Also a handful of nuts. Again, don't should yourself. If you want to get those caramelized nuts, that's better than eating a burger. So grab a handful of nuts. That'll give you energy. That'll give you a little bit of protein. Again, we can talk individually about what kind of nuts work for you, what are higher in fat and salt and all those things. Bananas, fun tip. bananas contain tryptophan. Tryptophan, like turkey, makes you tired. So that might be a snack food you want to stay away from if you're draggy. Where the potassium is great for you, maybe it's good to throw in your morning smoothie when you already have energy in the day. But as a mid-afternoon, unless you put peanut butter on there or something to help with your energy, that might bring you down a little bit. So keep that in mind. And again, protein, you can put some peanut butter, some almond butter on that banana, or maybe pre-make some hard-boiled eggs and bring them with you to work. And you can have 1 or 2 hard-boiled eggs midday. You don't have to get up, and you're getting some protein to keep your energy. Let me quick check in, see what questions we have about food.
No, Sydney, you're good. You're good.
A lot of teasing about Gatorade. So I'm a Gator. I love the Gators, always. There's a lot of sugar in Gatorade, so keep that in mind. While there are good electrolytes, Gatorade, Powerade, drink it after a really hard CrossFit workout. You're sweating a ton. The sugar in there is going to help boost you back up. It's not going to hurt you. But if you are just
Sydney, just remind Jeff Edelman and Andrew Harris that Seminole Fire water is not a thing.
Okay, so I don't want to get too off track. I'll let you remind them of that. Thank you, John. I mentioned smoothies earlier. So I know breakfast is really hard for a lot of people. It's hard for time. It's hard if you have your kids. It's a lot harder, especially when you're going to the office. But maybe it's harder now because you get up, maybe you put a new shirt on, maybe you don't, and you sit right away and start working. Unless you're specifically intermittent fasting to lose weight or you have specific purposes around that, eating first thing in the morning within the first hour of getting up helps boost your metabolism, will give you energy, will help with weight loss. But I know sometimes it's hard to eat. So a really great alternative is a smoothie because you can drink it, it's not so heavy. I prepare a smoothie in the evening right before bed. I don't put all the liquids in until the morning. Then I pop the liquids in, blend it, ready to go. Takes me 3 minutes in the morning before I walk out the door or jump on my computer. So that might be a good breakfast option for you. I can give you recipes one-on-one for that as well. Couple alternatives to some of our guilty pleasures. I'll just share 2 with you. One of my favorites is frozen organic mango chunks instead of ice cream. It's super sweet. You can get this from Whole Foods or Publix or whatever, or it's mango season, cut your own mango and freeze it. Just a couple chunks of that. I actually let it thaw a little bit, but still eat it while it's frozen. So you're getting the crunch, you're getting the cold, you're getting the sweet. You're still satisfied without a ton of artificial sugar. So maybe give that a try if you can't get rid of your ice cream, but you're starting to feel bad about your quarantine abs or your quarantine 15. Another one, bean chips or any gluten-free chips. You can get alternative chips now that just look at the back of the bag. The ingredient list, can you read the ingredients? Is it a minimal amount of ingredients? What is the first item listed in the ingredient list? The first item means the most of that. So there are different kinds of beans that they make with chips now, cassava, all kinds of things. And so this gives you some protein without putting on so many pounds. Look, if you eat a whole bag of it, amount still matters. So you can't sit and eat a whole bag of it, but it's a healthier option. You can still have your chips and guac, chips and salsa, but in a less guilty way. So those are 2 of my favorites. And for any other food questions, I'm not a nutritionist, but I do help my clients with food alternatives, meal plans based on what your goals and desires are. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out individually. Okay. I am moving on to some more interactive exercises. Jen, I'll get with you on your question on the side about liquid IV. Some of that stuff is good, but again, look at the ingredients. Too many chemicals, bad. Okay, so stretches. These are great stretches, everyday stretches. They can be midday, they can be first thing in the morning, they can be at your desk or at home. First and foremost, your neck. So I'm going to show you right from this desk chair. couple neck options, and I'd really love for you to participate, but I won't know if you're not. So sit tall, cross hands over chest, close your eyes or not. 3 neck rolls each way, getting a full rotation, letting your neck hang all the way back and come all the way forward. We don't realize how much we neglect our neck. 2 more. Don't forget to breathe while you do these. And switch directions. Please excuse my hair. Good, and come on up. So a little bit of crickling and crackling is pretty normal, especially if you don't do that a lot. I see you shaking your head, Judge. Those little cracks, if it doesn't hurt, that means there's air in the joints. So it's actually good to get that stuff out. When you're rolling your neck, make sure to move very slowly because the neck is sensitive. Text neck is the thing. We are so forward all the time on our devices, on our computer, so we have to reset and get that full rotation. Another great neck stretch, you can have, let's say your right hand behind your back, left hand grabs the right side of your head, very gently pull the left ear to the left shoulder, press the right shoulder down. You can feel a full opening on the whole right side. And breathe here. When we're not in a presentation, I would say hold this for 30 seconds to a minute. Come on up, switch sides, left hand behind your back, right hand grabs the left side gently, don't yank. The 2 sides might feel very different. Press your left shoulder down as your right ear presses to your right shoulder. Come on up. Another version of this, I'll show you standing up because it'll be a little bit easier, but you can still do it in your seat. Bind your hands behind your back. Bring the bind to the left hip. To the left hip. Now right ear to right shoulder. You'll still feel that same opening. Back down the spine and switch. Again, you can do this from your chair. Should hold for 30 seconds to a minute. You can do this multiple times a day. Nice and easy. Oh, I've got a 5-minute warning. Sorry. Okay. No problem. Cat-cow. For those of you who know yoga, you can know your cat-cow moving your spine. I'm going to show you from the floor. You can do this on all fours or in your chair. I'll move fast, I promise. So you want to move your spine, tailbone up first, head comes up last. So you're getting full extension, head comes up. Exhale, tuck the chin, round the spine all the way. So by moving the spine fully extended and fully flexed, that also will help with text neck, give you energy, make you feel really good. Wrists, you can do these from your chair or on the floor, palm down and forward, top of the hand down and forward. You can do this on all fours, which would be a little bit more intense. When you type a lot, you guys probably need these. I've worked with a lot of paralegals who have carpal tunnel and this has changed their life. Top of the hand down, do one at a time, alternate. You can also, in your chair, put those forearms together, clasp your hands together, circles, bind the fingers, circles. Do a couple at a time. Hips are really important, like I mentioned, because we're sitting all the time. So you can be in your chair and just press your leg back so you're getting the hip extension and press the toes into the floor. You can do this right from your chair. You can also do bridges on the floor, which is going to help your glutes, hamstrings, hips, or standing quad stretch. So stand, pull that leg back behind you. That's going to open all this stuff up. You want to think about extension, so getting the hip back. If you know your bridges in yoga, this is the same thing on the floor. Knees bend, hip width apart, lift your hips, squeeze your glutes. Okay, so those are all of my stretches. Yeah, put that back up, Jen. Sorry to rush through those last few, but please reach out to me individually if you want. I didn't mean to talk so long today. The other side really quickly. Sorry, okay, so here are the tips, just reminders. You guys will all get these, but it goes a little bit more in depth of what all the stretches were. And then that last slide that Jen just showed, I am available one-on-one if you guys have questions, quick questions here and there. I do private and group yoga in person or by Zoom. I also do group strength training, high energy training, whatever you need. Right now I can do anything through Zoom. I've worked with some corporate companies and some law firms. And I also do one-on-one training that I customize to the individual. So that can be on Zoom, in person, in your home, in the gym, whatever works for you. My contact info is here. If you have questions, let me know. Thank you so much for having me today. I apologize for going too long. Have a great day, everyone.
Follow her on Instagram because her at-home workouts are insane.
Thanks, Jen.
Sorry about that. I want to again say thank you to Sydnee for a great presentation. And Sydnee has worked in law firms, so she knows exactly what we do. So if anyone is thinking about reaching out to her, definitely do it, because she has been there literally both with the PBCJ and with law firms before that. Our next presenter, to go from the what can you do physically to what can you do mentally, is Dr. Sheila Rapa. And I don't want to take too much time away from her presentation with an introduction, but let me just say she is a clinical and forensic psychologist who's been in private practice since 1999. She is an expert witness in all courts. She is an adjunct professor at Palm Beach Atlantic University. And for 20 years, Dr. Rapa was the chief clinical officer at Chrysalis Health, a full-service community mental health center. So she knows, just as Sydnee knows physically what we should be doing, Dr. Rapa knows what we should be doing mentally. Dr. Rapa, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm handing it over to you.
All right, beautiful. Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I can't believe I have to follow these women that are exceptional speakers. And Sydnee, when I did the neck roll, it cracked like crazy. I don't know if it's old age. I don't know what it is. It was, felt really good.
It happens to the best of us.
Oh my gosh, it was unreal. I was like, oh, I might need to exercise a little more. Anyway, so what we're going to talk about for just a few minutes, because I know you guys have lives to get to and kids to get to, you know, same as me. We're going to talk a little bit about the mental health side of having adjustment and stress reactions and what that means. Someone else is going to be doing my PowerPoint, which I so appreciate. So if you'll go to the next slide, we will get started. So when we talk about adjustment disorders, there is such a thing as being so stressed or having so much anxiety, depression, and stress surrounding something changing in our lives that we can actually develop a disorder. I saw you guys all did the poll, and I was kind of like figuring that it would be that high. I thought in some areas it might be higher, but really everybody pretty much said that adapting to work at home is stressful and trying to figure out the balance is stressful. For some people, this absolutely can lead to an adjustment disorder where someone has a psychological disorder which can be diagnosed. So I'm going to run through this very quickly, just in case you're one of these people. If you have these symptoms, definitely speak to somebody that is in the mental health field, get help for yourself. In some instances, you might need some psychotropic medicine. I know that some people are telling me that the Zoloft prescriptions are through the roof as people are trying to deal with their anxiety. There's many other healthy ways to deal with anxiety also, but for some people that have disorders, it might be the way to go. When you're thinking about an adjustment disorder, what we see is that there's an emotional or behavioral symptom pattern that results because of stress. So stress hits, and then somebody is trying to adjust to that stress. And when they're trying to adjust, their emotions and their behaviors are out of control. They feel out of control. The symptoms and behaviors are always clinically significant, meaning the distress has to be out of proportion to the severity of what you're going through. So while the rest of us might feel a mild level of stress, a moderate level of stress, someone with an adjustment disorder would feel a severe amount of distress, which would be anxiety, depression, or behavioral problems. And it's causing impairment. So you're not able to really function socially. You're not able to function occupationally. And other important areas of your life are getting impacted because you can't deal with the adjustment that needs to be made in your life. Once the stressor goes away, when we all get back to work and everything is fine, the symptoms really shouldn't persist for more than 6 months. An adjustment disorder is small. An adjustment disorder is a small amount of time. If after this time you're still feeling something, then we're talking about probably major depression, anxiety disorder, or something more significant. But an adjustment disorder is usually time limited, and treatment for an adjustment disorder can also be time limited. So adjustment disorders are associated with an increased risk of suicide and even completed suicide. What we know is that, as the judge was talking, attorneys are high up there for having the potential for suicide. Sometimes the suicide potential comes from the adjustment disorder, and that the adjustment disorder isn't taken care of when it was supposed to be. So the adjustment disorder then becomes a depressive disorder or a major anxiety disorder that people feel like they can't go on or they feel hopeless. Adjustment disorders also lead to decreased productivity. It's not a good thing. Some people thrive on stress and thrive on change. Other people, it cripples them. So we have to know when we're crippled and we're not being productive, something is going on that's probably outside the scope of what we would consider healthy and normal. And it can definitely lead to changes in your social relationships. Remember, when bad things happen, most people get upset. All of us are going through stress. All of us are going through times where we want things to change or wish things were different or trying to figure things out. And so we might have sleepless nights, or we might not feel like eating, or we're eating everything in sight. That's not necessarily an adjustment disorder. That's us just responding to an adjustment and responding to the stress. An adjustment disorder exceeds what would be normally expected. Are lawyers susceptible to adjustment and stress disorders? Absolutely. You guys heard from the judge how lawyers are susceptible to these type of disorders. I'll run through them again. I think we have very similar statistics. Why are lawyers vulnerable? Because you guys are necessarily overcommitted. You juggle too many things at one time. You're always in motion. Believe me, I have worked with attorneys for 20 years. First of all, you're my favorite people on the planet, but you make me laugh so hard. I've never seen people that can multitask and people that can honestly, throw 100 things at one time at them and they can handle it. You guys are always in motion, but it does take a toll on your mental health when you're always in motion that way. You take inadequate breaks and rests. You set very high standards for yourself, but you also set very high standards for your expert witnesses. And you constantly have low-grade stress. So you don't always get away from the stress. Even when you go to sleep at night, you're a little worried, stuff's going on in your head, and then you wake up in the morning and stuff is going on in your head. There's often a lack of help and assistance, especially if you're a solo practitioner. Sometimes the support just isn't there. Chronic fatigue, you're tired because you're going constantly, and you feel such a strong sense of responsibility. Not for nothing, we do have people's lives in our hands, right? Literally. What's going to happen to them in their future, what's happening to them now, and you want to make the right decisions for them. These things are very stressful. Sometimes you feel guilty because your work takes you from being with your family or other things. You have a lot of responsibility with your families and expectations. from your job and from people that love you. And a lot of times when I see attorneys, I notice that there's some codependency, a real strong inability to say no. And I can only say that about you guys because us psychologists are the queens and kings of that. You know, not being able to say no to others and not being able to have boundaries. And that does make you more vulnerable to stress. So we talked about this a little bit earlier, and I think that her numbers, the judge's numbers were actually a little higher, which are probably more accurate. And I would think they're probably even more than what we know now. But about 21% of licensed employed attorneys are problem drinkers. 28%, almost 30, struggle with a level of depression. So they're going in and day night and at night with depression and have anxiety. The highest incidence of these problems are in younger attorneys, which makes sense. In the first 10 years of practice, if you guys can remember the first 10 years you were doing anything, you kind of think you know stuff, but you don't really know stuff and you're trying to figure it all out. Those first 10 years are hard. After that, we do notice that attorneys and people in general are able to handle their life and their careers a little better. So how do you know when you're stressed? The most common signs of stress reactions are these, and I want you just to, instead of just listening to what I'm saying, I want you to think through the words that I'm saying and see if any of these fit with you. Some of these also were in the checklist, the little test we took, which was excellent. So some of the emotional signs that we're going to see are feeling overwhelmed, feeling drained. If you're emotionally exhausted, they call it compassion fatigue, vicarious trauma, whatever you want to call it. If you're emotionally exhausted, you cannot take care of yourself and other people very well. If you feel angry, a lot of people will tell me the first sign that they are stressed out is they become irritable. And they won't notice initially. People around them are telling them, hey, you're really irritable, you're really snapping at me. And they might initially be very defensive about that. But sit for a moment, listen to what people are saying. If you are angry and you are irritable, if you're feeling sad, these are things you have to deal with. These emotions don't just go away on their own. Loss of pleasure, things you used to love doing that now you don't want to do. Feeling overly involved with others emotionally. One of the things we as humans do is that when we start to feel bad emotionally, we want to cling to somebody that feels kind of good emotionally, right? Because we're going to feed off of their emotional energy to make ourselves feel better. If you find yourself being way too involved emotionally with someone, being emotionally clingy, getting some feedback that, hey man, I got to peel you off me, it's a little too much. Probably you're not dealing with your own stress, your own depression, your own anxiety. So it's something that you do need to look at. If you feel isolated or alienated, detached, if you're constantly feeling like you're rejected. Normally in life, do we all get rejected? Absolutely. But normally in life, there's not just rejection back to back to back to back. If that's happening, either you're doing something to push people away or you're perceiving things that are not accurate. So be aware of how you're feeling in your surroundings. And that is something that any mental health professional can help you sort through and look at. And if you're experiencing guilt, shames, or feelings of self-doubt, constantly doubting yourself, you do want to look at that. At some point, you should get to the point where you have some confidence. And if your confidence is getting eroded, something's going on. Cognitive signs, loss of hope, pessimism, if you're so negative, if you are just the person that always sees the cloudy day and not the sun, check that out. It could be a cognitive sign that you're way overstressed. If you question your competence and self-worth all the time, if you aren't enjoying your job and have very low job satisfaction, it really might not be the profession that you've chosen. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's because you're not dealing with your own emotional issues. And so dealing with your issues will help you find the joy in your career. And if you're challenging your basic beliefs of safety, trust, intimacy, if you're feeling vulnerable, all these things are cognitive signs that, ooh, I need to get someone else to help me process this and check this out. In terms of behavioral signs, Behavioral signs are normally the first thing that other people notice about us because our behaviors show even if we're able to hide our emotions for a while. So if you're starting to distance from people, if you're cutting clients off or clients are talking to you and you're not really wanting to listen to them, you're thinking of 500 other things in your head because you can't be present with them. If you start to experience things like intrusive thoughts or somatic symptoms, headaches every day, my stomach hurts constantly. Every time I think I have to go into work, I feel like I'm getting a little sick, a little sore throat. These are things you want to look at. It's a behavioral sign that the stress is too much. If it's impacting your personal relationships and you don't have an ability to experience intimacy with somebody, you're always distant, you're always pulling back. These are behavioral signs too, that something is going on with you psychologically and it needs to be looked at. If you have a general distress level that's over and above what other people are around you, and if you have difficulty maintaining your professional boundaries, we know that one of the things that will burn us out and stress us out the most is professional boundaries. So being able to set boundaries and keep boundaries is extremely pivotal, and especially when we're working from home, which makes it almost impossible to keep our boundaries in a nice little box like they might have used to be. So let's look real quick at some of the things that we can see in our body, in our mind, in our emotions, and our behavior when we are feeling like we are stressed or we're having a reaction to the adjustment that we are making in our lives. And these are very practical things. So think them through with me and see, how often are you experiencing headaches? Frequent infections. Did you realize that when your body is inflamed and infected, lots of times stress is the culprit? Taut muscles. Thank God for people like Sydnee. Otherwise, you know, we would all walk around like banjo strings. The taut muscles are something that really show us that we're overstressed. Fatigue, muscle twitches. This is a good one. Skin irritation. Trust me, I've got a 17-year-old daughter. So if I have to hear about her skin breaking out one more time because of all the stress she's under, but the truth is, we are all stressed and it does impact us physically, and we see that. Even breathlessness, which for some people can lead to what? Panic attacks. They start to feel like they can't breathe, and then the panic comes. In terms of our mind, is there constant worrying? Is your thinking muddled? Are you able to, sometimes when I'm stressed with work or overwhelmed, I feel like I can't, and just like now, can't talk, can't think a straight thought. It's muddled. Your thinking is muddled. Do you have impaired judgment? Are you doing things you normally would not do and acting in ways you would normally not act? Nightmares, being indecisive or negative, or making really hasty decisions because guess what? I don't want to have to make another decision. I want this off my plate. So I'm not even going to think it through. I'm just going to make the decision so that I can move on. It's a sign that you have too much stress in your life and something is going on psychologically. In terms of your behavior, one of the big things that as psychologists we look at is how accident prone are you? Are you having accidents all the time? Are you constantly falling and hurting yourself or walking into things? You wouldn't think that accident proneness in itself would be an indication of stress, but watch yourself in your life. See when you're more likely to be accident prone. And I guarantee you it's when you are stressed out. A loss of appetite, a loss of a sex drive, drinking more, not sleeping, feeling restless. Like I got to get out. I'm not calm. I'm not ever at peace. These are signs that something is wrong. And if you're smoking more. In terms of your emotions, if you'll go back, I'm sorry. In terms of your emotions, again, we talk about loss of confidence.
Dr. Rapa, let me just interrupt for 1 second.
Yes.
We are getting towards the end to the hard stop, and so we've told everyone that these would largely go to about 12:30, and we're coming upon that time. So I want to let you continue, and I want you to give us the core exercises, things that you think, the 5 things that we need to do to make sure that we're in the right mental space. And while you have a moment to think about that, I want to let Jen Letman, I want to thank her for co-hosting this with me, and she's going to put up the CLE credit so that everyone has a chance to get that and enter it for the Florida Bar. So I apologize for interrupting, and we're going to come right back to you in just a second.
No problem.
Dr. Rapa, but for everybody, if you can't see it there on the screen, the Florida Bar accreditation code number is 200-3237, N as in Nancy. Again, 200-3237, N as in Nancy. Take a screenshot of that, write that down, and we'll also post, or it's already been posted by Andrew Harris in the chat, as has Chief Judge Krista Marks's video and the contact information that Judge Schosberg Feuer shared, and the contact information for people to reach Sydnee Newman. Thank you so much. I apologize for interrupting. Dr. Rapa, we're back to you.
No problem at all. I don't know if my PowerPoint can come back up, but I think I do have a slide that just has a bunch of things that you guys can do to make yourself feel better during this time. You think we can find it or no?
And they're bringing it to you in just 1 second.
Beautiful. Okay, just scroll through and I'll be able to find it, I'm sure. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about self-care behaviors. You want, and if you'll go back one slide, and I think that'll encapsulate most of the things that we need to do. This is a perfect slide right here. The one that had go 2 more. 1 more. And 1 more.
Okay.
Where's the one? It has the smile face on the top, because that's where we're going to talk about there, right there. Thank you. So really fast, I'll get you guys out of here. A lot of people think when things change, they will be happy. But the truth is, until you're happy, things won't change. So you really do have to let's go to our cognitive behavioral therapy. Let's go to changing our mind, realizing we're not alone, changing the things that we think. Instead of saying, I have to do this, say, I get to do this. I get to be home today. I get to be with my kids, whatever it is, changing the way you talk to yourself, setting realistic expectations. Use your spirituality, use a more of a philosophical outlook, thinking what is the best thing I'm learning from this, and how is my life going to get better because of what I'm going through, and constantly challenging your negativity. Don't allow yourself to get in that negative space. Make sure you're utilizing your telehealth. Teletherapy is available to all of you, and it really does. Cognitive behavioral therapy helps you change your thoughts so that it can change your feelings and change your behaviors. And so that's the way to go if you need anything. Thank you so much again for allowing me to talk. I really appreciated it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rapa, for joining us. And I want to again thank all of our speakers today, Judge Schosberg Feuer, Sydnee Newman, and Dr. Rapa. The fact is, we've got simple takeaways from today. Be nice to yourself, and until you're happy, things won't change. And that is why we're all in this together, trying to reach those 2 goals. So I want to again thank our partners at ABOTA, our partners in the Florida Bar, our partners in the Judiciary. I want to thank Jen Letman, and I want to thank all of our presenters. And we'll give it back to Rebecca Brock for concluding remarks. Again, the reference number for the CLE is 200-3237, N as in Nancy. Thank you also again to Judge Small for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. John, thank you for your continued professionalism and your leadership in our community. What an outstanding presentation. I have to tell you, I really feel inspired, and what a nice way to end this week with some positive things to continue as we go forward, going into summer. It was really, really helpful. Thank you. And it's great to know we are all in this together. So thank you, you all. Take care. I wish you the best. Stay safe.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.